Good evening, everybody. I am Kelly Blackman. This is How to Win at Everything, and I'm here with my guest, Cory Lopes-Warfield. Um, Before we get started, Cory, I want to go ahead and get us started off with my cheesy intro. So here it comes. All right, all right. Thank you so much, buddy, for sticking on for that. I like that's 30 seconds of my hard work making that video. Um, so, Cory, let's start off, man. For everyone who doesn't know you, can you take a few minutes, man? Just, I know you're a pretty humble guy, but can you just take a few minutes, brag on yourself, tell us who you are, what you're doing, and why you have a 500,000 followers on LinkedIn?
Sure. Well, thank you. First of all, I want to thank everybody for tuning in, and I want to thank you for having me.
Yes, sir.
Kelly and I are both from Chicago, but I also have dual residency now in Brazil. So I'm here in sunny Rio de Janeiro, although it's about 10 something at night, so the sun's departed until the morning. But my name is Cory Warfield. I spend the majority of my adulthood working in restaurants as a bartender and waiter. And about 7 years ago, I started my first technology company because I'm crazy. Learned how to do it by watching YouTube, reading the Lean Startup and Traction. That company we bootstrapped to market. Ultimately, we raised about $850,000 for that company, scaled it up to some national accounts. I departed and took an exit from that company a few years ago, and really doubled down on what got me there, which was LinkedIn. So I learned the algorithm, learned the psychology, made the right impressions with some of the key players there, including the co-founder of the platform. And that's kind of, as they say in that regard, the rest is history, right? I'm getting millions of impressions weekly there. It's converted into seven-figure revenues. And so that's a little bit about kind of where I got my start from. But these days I'm doing a few things, right? So I stepped down as managing director, co-managing director at Founder Institute for the Midwest in the US, but I'm still an entrepreneur in residence. So we've helped launch over 100 companies through that program since I've been there. I'm the co-founder of a launch pad called Decarbon, DCRBN. We're the first carbon neutral Web3 launch pad. So we have 15 companies that we're incubating, helping them raise capital, help them get some of their first key clients. I'm also co-founder of a company called Coaching to Web3. We're literally building coaching on the blockchain using smart contracts. We're helping coaches streamline their entire coaching product so that these NFTs unlock things at the right time, and then their clients can resell them on the public market to help recoup some of all of, or in some cases, even more than their investment in themselves. So we look at that as a way to really revolutionize the coaching space. I'm also doing some stuff with housing and medicine throughout the continent of India and throughout the continent of Africa and through India as well. We're working with the local governments there, working with a prominent blockchain as well for some of our African endeavors. What else? LinkedIn growth coach, so I'm always actively helping people grow on LinkedIn. My clients together have about 5 times as many followers as I do, or more, which is cool because I have a lot of followers there as well. I'm the host of the Cory Connects podcast. That's probably about it.
Really? It's only about 19 things, man. It's all good. Thank you. uh, So thanks so much, Cory, for introing yourself, man. Because I got to tell you, when I looked at the list of things, I was like, "Oh my God, this guy has like a page and a half of stuff to read."
Kelly,
And yep.
I forgot one of the biggest ones. I'm the chief
Oh yeah,
growth
yeah.
officer at Agora World, AgoraVR.world. We are a no-code, drag-and-drop metaverse creation platform that's freemium. We have an SDK so anyone can embed our technology. We're partnering with some of the biggest metaverse companies in the world. But people can go to Agora World right now, build their own metaverse experience for themselves for free, let people come in and experience this alternative world. I say the metaverse will help usher in the fourth dimension. But so that's a company that I've been with for some time. I'm not
Okay.
a founder, but I'm on the co-founding team. I'm super bullish on because we're free, right?
I
We're
love that.
removing every barrier to entry. And also, most recently, I'm a Chat GPT early adopter and expert. Corporates bring me in to learn how to use Chat GPT. So I would. I was just being absent-minded. I wasn't being facetious when I said, "Is that it?" But no, I forgot all the good stuff.
Gotcha, gotcha. So I am gonna ask you a little bit later what the heck is the metaverse and what's Chat GPT so that we can get that cleared out. But for now, man, when you listen to you talk about it, obviously there's a bunch of stuff you're into. And you started off and well, I remember you talking about bartending and that sort of thing. You started off there. What how do you make that move? Like what says go from, hey, I'm working at high-end restaurants, I'm doing good things here, I'm making money. What says go into LinkedIn, go into what was it, coding that you were doing? Like what happens? How do you make that transition?
Well, so I'll give a little quick context. When I first got into restaurants, I was 15 years old and I was allowed to bus tables. As soon as I became 16, I was able to both bartend and wait tables at the Kellogg Business School in Northwestern
Hmm.
at the Allen Center. Because back then, 16, you could work, and if you could work, you could deal with alcohol and food so long as you didn't
Hmm.
take money for it. And the students there were drinking for free. It was part of their huge ticket for going to the Kellogg Business School. So I cut my teeth earlier than almost anybody.
Hmm.
But then I kind of went down a different path for a few years. And I found myself at 20 years old, homeless on the streets, living in a garage with no running water in the
Hmm.
mountains of Colorado. And I started washing dishes at a restaurant. So for me, restaurants really were transformative. And I
Hmm.
spent nearly 20 years there. And so I didn't start off at the high end by any means. I worked from dishwasher to busboy to waiter. I did get certified as a sommelier, which was helpful in
Hmm.
getting some of the better jobs. But by the time I was at the end of my career, I had been making six figures a year as a waiter for several years, many
Hmm.
years. I had regulars like uh, Steve, Steve Harvey, and Michael Jordan, and Vince Vaughn, and all the
Hmm.
sports teams in Chicago. They would have their whole team parties at the restaurant I opened, Mastro Steakhouse,
Yep.
and I was always their server. Right, so all the Blackhawks I knew them, all the Bears I knew them, all the any team. White Sox didn't come in so much, but the Cubbies came in, and I'm a North Sider. Um, but I had when Kelsey Grammer and Ti came in, I was their waiter. When Keith
Wow.
Richards from the Rolling Stones came in, I was their waiter.
Wow.
When Joe Biden, the former vice president at the time, came in, I was his waiter. When Bill Clinton came in, I was his right. The list goes on and on. And I was making six figures. And I realized at a certain point I didn't want to be a servant in the castle anymore.
Hmm.
Michael Jordan, Magic Johnson, these guys, they all treated me with respect. Vince Vaughn used to literally treat me like I was part of the family when I was there.
Hmm.
However, I realized we're not we're not equal, right? We're not all
Yeah.
just human beings. They're here because they're living their best life, and I'm here because I'm hoping they leave me an extra couple $100 on the
Yeah.
table,
Yeah.
right? And I got so sick of being a servant in the castle and working until 2 in the morning, and right all of the things that go along with that.
Hmm.
And so I spent a couple of years in kind of my mid 30s, wanting something more, but I had no experience for anything, right?
Hmm.
Um, I wasn't set up for success, but I knew that I was so annoyed that every other day I didn't know if I was working or not because I was on call, right? In the restaurant industry, every other shift is on call, so you find out at noon that day if you're working that day. You can't make plans. You don't see your
Yep.
family for holidays. You
Yep.
can't forecast your revenue. It's really not good. Sorry, I know this. I think, hey, everyone on that's watching, I'm sorry, but you're gonna see me turn upside down. I mean, this is gonna help me be better in frame. Okay, perfect.
Gotcha.
But so I do everything from my mobile. You see my three computers here. I have my iPad, all that, but I try to do everything from my phone. So big up StreamYard for finally being able to be compatible with iPhone.
Right.
I've been going back and forth with them for a while. But I really was sick of never knowing when I was working, and I was really sick of being a servant in the castle. And it finally clicked with me. This is about 8 years ago. I said, the data exists a week in advance. They know if they need me. I had been a manager. I'd been a corporate executive in the restaurant industry. I knew every element of a P&L, forecasting labor.
Mm-hmm.
They know if they're going to need me. They know if the patio will be open on Thursday.
Mm-hmm.
Right? They know if it's going to rain or not. They know if the United Center has an event or not. They know if they need me. Why didn't our very expensive solution for scheduling, which is called hot schedules, why didn't it help with that? And I looked around and there was no alternative that forecasted labor to that degree where it could tell you if you would need people. So then I helped write some algorithms and I put together technology that helped
Mm.
people work when they wanted, with whom they wanted to be the most productive. And so we were kind of an early AI type of thing. We
Oh
were
wow.
not AI, we were machine learning. And we implemented some deep machine learning, which was kind of the stepping stone to AI. But that was a hard. It was hard to scale that company because I had no clue what I was doing. But
Right.
what really helped us get anything from into big accelerators and some of the biggest fast food companies in the country, at least if not the world, using the software was LinkedIn. So I read The Lean Startup by Eric Ries to figure out how to
Mm-hmm.
start the company. Then I realized I didn't know how to scale the company, so I was fortunate enough to read a book called Traction by Gabriel Weinberg. And it postulates that there are only 12 traction channels, period, for any business, and what's worked for your competitor in different seasons or years or markets will not work for you. So it
Mm-hmm.
says you have to test all 12 channels, and then you have to do tests on every facet and component of those channels to find your ideal marketing channel. Turns out
Mm-hmm.
mine was LinkedIn, and that served me really well. So once I took my exit from the company, it was just me and LinkedIn and about 100,000 followers or something like that.
Wow. Yeah.
But I really learned the algorithm, and I really learned how to do the anti-sell on LinkedIn to get all the right people reaching out to me to buy anything that I was selling. So hopefully that answered the question.
Yeah. Man. Okay. So you mentioned that at one point you were living in a garage, you were homeless. Let me just say, man, I've actually been there, literally living in a garage, in my car. Um, how did that come about? Like, where did that situation come from?
Well, so I was raised in South Evanston, and my family loved me. Um, But when I dropped out of college, I got a job as a computer software tester at Rand McNally
Hmm.
back in 1997. I then became a metrologist for Searle Pharmaceutical Research at the age of 19. And that was a very, very reputable position. Metrology is the science of weights and measures.
Hmm.
So I was effectively calibrating pipettes, digital balances, and things like that. And I'll just say it, to be that young making that much money in an office with those type of instruments got me, and I grew up on hip hop. Right, I was a rapper, I still am.
Sir.
um, that got me feeling like I could probably make some extra money. And back then there wasn't the digital nomad side hustle world that there is today, where I can make a pitch deck for you and you'll pay me a couple of $1,000s. So I started, I kind of got into selling some things that I probably shouldn't have been selling, and that took me down a little bit
Yeah.
of a, I was from South Evanston, where gang culture was very big at the time, so I got caught up in some of the gang stuff going on, and that ended me up on the West Coast. The people I was with in Chicago had people out there, and so couple bad moves turned into a couple more bad moves, and
Yeah.
I found
Yeah.
myself without much
It
of anything.
spirals fast, doesn't it?
Hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. So okay, so we got this guy who's at one point making good money young. You go through this trouble point. You have a kind of an enlightening sort of moment where it's like, hey, I've gotten into. Well, first off, let me back up. I haven't ever been a bartender or a waiter, dude. How the heck do you make six figures bartending and waiting? Like, what? How did that work out?
Well, so I can do some simple math for you. At Mastro Steakhouse, we have bottles of wine up to $6,500,
Yep,
right? Your Petrus, your Margot. We had tomahawk steaks were $155
I've
for
had
one
that.
person.
Yep.
And So the seafood towers, right, typically averages about $65 a person. So I was in private dining. I opened up the restaurant in that department. So we would have
Okay.
people come in and spend anywhere from $50 to $100,000 on their check. My built-in gratuity was 18%, and when I went
Oh,
above and beyond for people with money like that, what they would typically do is double the tip. So, you
jeez.
know, yeah. And even before that, I was at Ruth's Chris for years. I had
Yep.
regulars that would come in and literally tip me extra $1,000 every time they came in, sometimes more than that. But I was really good at what I did, right? I was the waiter, and again, I haven't waited at a table in 7 years, but I was the waiter where if you told me you wanted liver and onions and we didn't have them, I wouldn't even ask my manager. I'll run to the store. I'll be right back with some liver and tell the chef, I need you to cook this up with some onions, right?
Yeah.
If I
Yeah.
found out it was your birthday and you didn't bring some flowers, I'll run and get flowers from the store on me, give them to you to give to your girl, right?
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
open table, I could go through and see the notes, so I would know I have two people celebrating birthdays tonight. I go get them little things and bring it in, and the mentality of someone to receive something from a waiter that's so above and beyond that they probably
Yeah.
paid $15,
Yeah.
$20 out of their pockets. The type of person that's not going to reflect that in the gratuity, thank God I was able to kind of,
Yeah.
avoid. So,
Right. Right.
sometimes I came up a little bit short, but I loved what I did, and I think that showed. I spent the majority of my fine dining, but career at Ruth's Chris Steakhouse, where their founder Ruth Fertel, her famous quote is, "Do what you love and love what you do." And I do think that for many years I loved what I did to the extent that I was the first person. I had Ken Griffey Jr. and Sr. I grew up loving baseball. I
Yep.
grew up loving the Griffeys. I served Ken Griffey Sr. his first alcoholic beverage,
Oh, wow.
period. Because I was that charming, and I got him to say, you know what, I don't do this, but I'm going to do this. He was there with his son and his son's manager. Um, so I think I really love what I did. But the thing is, I loved what I did until I didn't anymore.
Yeah.
And then I
Yeah.
was so good at it on autopilot that I was still able to make the money, but I just hated it. I knew I hated it.
So look, man, there sounds like there's a thread starting to come up, a thread of this sort of inner person that you are at this time. Now, this makes me think. I remember you told me a story about when you a time where you finally started to see that correlation between what kind of person that you were and then like kind of how it paid off. I don't know if you remember that, but there was
Oh, that's Troy and Clark and Lake. I'll never
yeah,
forget
yeah.
Troy.
Can you tell us about that? How that worked out?
Well, I used to take the train in from the south side to work when I was at Ruth's Chris. And there was just a beautiful soul that was panhandling that kind of, quote unquote, lived at a certain intersection. Um, and I gave him some money one day. It was kind of more than I would have probably usually given somebody. And that's when I met my first big regulars that I had just alluded to that tipped me really big. I didn't think anything of it. And then I saw him a few days later and gave him some more money. Those people came back to see me a second time. I didn't think anything of it. But about 10 times in, I realized every time I saw Troy, right, and I'd get down on his cardboard with him, pray for him with him, give him eye drops. I'd go to the store, get him things he needed. But I started to realize every time I saw him and gave him money is when I'd go in to make more money than most waiters. It's most people will never have $1,000 tip, let alone an
Yeah,
extra
yeah,
$1,000,
yeah.
right? It was every time I saw him, and now it was a weird cat. It was a weird kind of just understanding that every time I did this without expectation, that it would come back to me probably tenfold, maybe even numerically.
Wow.
And I kind of just understood at that point I can't ever do this with an expectation. If I give this man $100 and I expect to go in and make 10,000, it's not going to happen,
Hmm.
right? That's not what this is about. You don't do things to get something. But as long as I'm doing this as I had been doing, with an open heart, with love, then it's going to probably bear fruit. And I don't know that it ever didn't. As a matter of fact, I'll go into a quick story. He took the Southside train with me, same as me, one day after I hadn't seen him in a month or so. And I on that Southside train, it was the South Shore Metro. You could drink beer, and so I had some beer, and I knew he was living on the street. But he came onto the train, and he looked like he was in a real wild mood. It was a different look in his face than I'd ever seen. And I had just opened a beer, So I didn't acknowledge, I didn't let him know that I was there, and he walked right past me because I didn't want to be a reason to put him into any kind of a funk. I do believe that was the last time I ever saw him. That may or may not have been the last time that the group of gentlemen that had come in and been tipping me
Well, that's
huge.
funny. Yeah.
These guys ended up taking me on private jets around the country. We stayed at Vegas at the Wynn. We used to go to see the Bulls play at the United Center. They'd always get us
Wow.
skybox suite. Like, I do think that when I let him pass me on the train might have been the last time that I ever saw him, and that blessing ever came my way. But it was just, the correlation was too evident to
Yeah. To
bypass and to
miss. Yeah.
overlook.
I think that's awesome, man. I now here's the thing that I think is really interesting about what you mentioned though. Uh, you said that if you felt like if the expectation was there that you were going to get something, that it wouldn't have happened. What brought about that idea? Because it sounds like a transactional thing at that point. Let me go invest my $20 to Troy and get my whatever.
Well, I hope I didn't splice words. I meant that had I done it with an expectation, I don't think I would have gotten the results.
Right, right. Well, I mean, but what brought? Why wouldn't you? Once you noticed the correlation, what stopped you from ever thinking like, oh yeah, I can make this my business? There's some sort of correlation here. Maybe they knew the guy, whatever the case, and I can keep going with this. Like, why did it remain in your heart and your mind something that needed to be done out of love and out of just a sincere desire to help?
Well, I think on the one hand, a quote that's been said many, many times over that I'm often found saying as well is that where attention goes, energy flows, right? But I
Hmm.
take it beyond attention to intention. And I really do look at energetic, frequencies, vibrations, the way that things really resonate. And to
Hmm.
me, expectation is everything. And so, had I done that with greed in my heart, I could have given the guy $1,000 with greed in my heart. I probably would have had my tables walked out and say,
Yeah.
this lobster's chewy, the steak's overcooked, and not even tip me, right? So to me, it was all about just honoring the cipher, right?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
really being in flow and doing things with love. Because to me, when you do things with intention, that's not reciprocity, right?
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
give to get. I
Yeah, that's
believe that if you
transactional.
give,
Yeah,
it is, and I believe if you give to give, right? End of
yeah,
story. Wash your hands. That sets into place something energetically, universally that is much more powerful. So, I never even questioned it, right?
hmm hmm
I never had the damn like. Let me see if I give this guy $200 if I
yeah,
get
yeah,
two great tables. No, I just I don't know why I knew that, but it rang
yeah.
true and it still does. Probably it's probably been 15 years since then.
Let
And I
me
hope
ask you,
Troy's
man.
still alive. I hope he's doing great. Troy, I hope you found your way like I
Mhm.
did.
Yeah, seriously, man. Um, yeah, I gotta agree. Aya is one of the people who is very much aligned with that, with the sincere idea of giving for the sake of giving. And it's a beautiful thing. Now, I have to dive in a little bit deeper here, Corey. Where the heck does that come from, man? Because like I know, the world we live in is very transactional, and in a lot of ways, it's probably going to be the case that in most cases, people are going to say, "Yeah, let me give so I can get." Where how first off, let me ask, how has that shown up for you in the rest of your career since then? Like how have you backed that up, because you still believe like that? um what it feels like is that there's a lot of reasons and a lot of people who would say, yeah, forget that, man, I need to give so I can get. How have you kept that mindset? Let's start there.
Well, I would imagine that the people that are feeling that way probably are seeing a lot more turmoil in their lives, whether or
Yeah.
not they have, thank God right now I'm good. I have houses in two continents, and right, it's money comes, but at the same time, that's not what it's about for me either, right? And
Hmm.
I still do implement that to the extent With the first company I started, it was freemium until we raised too much money, and then they started charging, and it broke my heart. And that was my first foot out the door.
Yeah. Yeah.
I've even changed my entire business model with my coaching. Right, as of the beginning of this year, I introduced a free tier to work with me and a mid tier to work with me that's 1/8 of the price of my coaching.
Right.
Right. Um, I just want to see the world be a better place.
Mm.
And at this point, I have helped my world at least, and it is Earth and it is humanity, but
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
my experience as a human.
Yeah.
I've helped my world become so much better that I'm enjoying the fruits of my labor,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
I'm reaping the fruits at this point, and so I look at people. I've done deals with several of the sharks from Shark Tank right now, and I like some of them as human beings.
Mm-hmm.
Some of them though are miserable.
Yeah. Yeah.
Their TV stars are worth hundreds of millions of dollars, and I'm not talking about the one that's not worth hundreds of millions of dollars because I have there's only one of those, and I have a great deal of respect for Mr. Cuban. But that said, money doesn't bring happiness. Now, if you're
Yeah.
happy, money can escalate happiness,
Sure. Sure.
right? Um, but I think the people that are doing things transactionally at best are net zero, right?
Yeah.
They're
Yeah.
they're doing whatever they can to get whatever they can, and at the end of the day, hopefully that balances out for them. I wish everyone happiness and success. So the greedy people out there, I still hope that they have, a life that
Sure.
they're happy with. I can't imagine that eternally their souls are going to look back and be happy about the way that they chose to live their life as a human being on Earth this time around with that math, right? Or with that
Yeah. That.
intention.
Yeah.
And so for me, I don't know if I'm an old soul. I don't know if I've been here before. I don't know if that exists. I don't know if we're all just a product of a big bang or if we're all legitimately the only next son and daughter of God, right? All I know is that
Right.
we're all here right now in a moment. We were all created for some reason, right? By something. And when I look at that and I look at
Yeah.
what
Yeah.
perpetually happens from when I give without expectation, um, all I can say to anybody listening is I personally wouldn't have it any other way. And,
Mm-hmm.
to me, I think by most measures of success at this point, most people would look at my life and my, anything they want and think that I'm successful. To me, hopefully that's because I literally wake up happy every morning and go to
Yeah.
sleep happy every morning. And if I ever need a little pick me up, I can go to LinkedIn and say, good morning, everybody. If, if I've touched your life, let me know. I bet you 1,000 people say, "Yeah, Cory." So,
I
right,
like
thank God
that.
I'm good. I don't need the little soul tap yet.
Yeah.
Um, but that's what I do. I feel as though if any of us can make our world a little better, the way to do that is for the world to be better, not for our own life to be better.
Yeah. Yeah.
Especially when people indulge in so many things, right? It's like you can go make $1 million and waste $1 million.
It's
Ask
true.
most rappers and
Yep.
football
Yep.
players and
Yep.
NBA, and that's not that didn't make the world any better.
Yeah. So okay, that leads me into this second question. Um, there's a so as a coach, and I know we talked about the fact that if you everybody's a coach now with something or another. Uh, as a coach, though, I run into people all the time who are very disconnected from purpose and from connection with everybody else and with the world around them. Man, you didn't have a coach. You didn't have a somebody in your corner, in your ear saying, bro, they're people are together, people are one, blah, blah, blah. Where did that come from, man? Like how did that just spring up? Is this a hip hop thing, man?
I don't know, but I can tell you back, in the '90s, at one month, I was Source Magazine's unsigned hype. They thought I had
Hmm.
potential. I used to go down to the South Side,
Yeah.
George's Music Mart. I battled
Yes,
the
sir.
Two or Die in Crucial Conflict as
Yep.
judges.
Yep.
Um, the only reason I think that I didn't get famous as a rapper is I was in college in 1996 or 97. Sorry, it's Rio. It's really hot. Anybody watching right now just seeing me melt. This is what an
Yeah.
old Jewish man in Rio looks like. Um, but I was in college and I was told I had an opportunity to do a song with a couple of people I respected back then. Q-Tip from A Tribe Called Quest and Bahama Dia, who's from
Oh, I
Philly,
love
right?
Bahamadia.
And then there
Yeah.
was, oh, she was amazing. And then there was going to be a fourth MC on the song, and it was a white woman, right? So there's going to be a white man, a white woman, a black man, a black woman. And Bahamadia and Q-Tip were really established. Me and this white girl, whoever she was, we were not as established, but I would imagine she was good. I know back then I was amazing, right? And so we were told we were going to do this song. Then we were told that the label that Bahamadia and Q-Tip were working with, which was behind this potential collaboration, we were told that there was a potential deal in it on the other side of this, right?
Yeah,
Record
yeah,
deal. And I was 18 years old. I was in college. It was before I opened up for De La Soul and all of those other things in my career. And so we were told that we were going to find out about this, and then we were told that we were going to find out about this, and then we didn't hear anything. And then we got literally, if I'm not mistaken, it was either a message on a message board or it was an email. This is so, I mean, the internet and email was so new. My only email
yeah.
address was my college.edu. I think it was a message on the message board, but we got told that they had to put the project on hold
Ah,
because there was, well, this was for me personally, but and for the song never happened. It was supposed to be called Colorblind. We were told that they were putting it on hold because there was some white dude out of Detroit that was starting to get a lot of pub, right? This is 96. And it was Eminem, and I've had my opinions on him, this, that, and the third throughout all the time, but he turned out to be one of the only people I could say probably line for line, lyric for lyric, is probably a better rapper than me. I don't think I've ever said that out loud, and it makes me feel a little sick to hear. I still think in my prime, but anyhow, right? But
yeah,
so
yeah.
he was getting big, and what they literally told me as conversations went on, that this is not in the I'm pretty sure it was a chat board message when they told me the song wasn't going to go through, but they
Hmm.
ultimately told me that they couldn't bet on two white rappers from the Midwest at the same time, right? They're like, I was there, bet, but then Aftermath or whoever Shady was with at the
Yeah,
time,
yeah.
when they did their deal, that nullified mine. And so um you're asking if it goes back to the hip hop days. When I was a battle rapper, that's
That's right.
that's what I was. I wrote a
Everybody had
lot.
to be then. Yeah,
And I'm still nice. I was one of the only people I would always come from the top, never writtens, ever, ever,
that's right.
ever, ever.
That's right.
Um, but I think what that taught me was to be comfortable being uncomfortable. I was the
Yeah,
only
yeah,
white person in George's Music Mart at the Source Sunset Night
yeah,
Battle with Do or Die,
yeah,
right? And I pulled up in a white Lexus because I was a metrologist at the
yeah,
time, and so right. But to be the only white dude pulling up, and obviously everybody there had brought their own form of security, but I was this little white dude in a brand new Lexus on the south side. Like everyone immediately is like, "You don't belong here." Cool, cool, cool. I didn't. Right?
right.
We can talk about misappropriation or whatever we want, but ultimately, that wasn't my world. The people that beat me were the worst rappers ever, but they literally were flexing on me like they were gonna beat my ass on
Yeah,
stage, and you know what I mean? They didn't
yeah,
even rhyme. I'm like,
yeah.
okay, cool. Yep, you're gonna kill me. That's my cue. I'm gonna exit stage left.
I,
Um,
I gotta say though, man, like, there's a, I got a lot of this too. There's this sort of, I don't, and that's why I asked, was this hip hop related? Because I got this sort of rebellious streak in me. Now I'm a Christian. I'm a very religious guy. I'm a very spiritual guy. Very high belief in God. But there's this thread of rebellion, like a Jesus like rebellion, where it's like, I get that the system says it's supposed to go this way, but I got to try to do what's right, kind of thing. And I do believe, man, a lot of that came from hip hop. A lot of that came from the, I got into hip hop maybe late 80s. And, the Public Enemy, the Tribe Called Quest, Jungle Brothers sort of time. And growing up with that through the late 80s, mid 80s, late 80s, through the 90s, man, I really do wonder if that's like a significant thread through my life that said, yeah, if you find something you believe in, like, yeah, you gotta actually stick with it. So that's why I asked, man. Like,
Well,
obviously,
but let me
yeah,
take it here. If you listen to someone like the Jungle Brothers or Tribe Called Quest, they were primarily Muslim, right?
Yeah,
And a
yeah,
lot of the other people from the East Coast back then, you didn't hear a lot of people. Now, Tupac now is considered to be this Christian because he said only God can judge me, but
yeah,
there were very few people
yeah, yeah,
that were preaching any type of gospel back
yeah,
then.
yeah,
Now, years later, you had Mace from Bad
yeah,
Boy come
yeah,
out and try to be a pastor for a year or two and give up his little,
yeah.
his little amount of wealth. At one point, you had a rapper from the West Coast called Rappin' Forte that was a
Yep,
Christian. You
yeah,
had the Boogie Monsters out of
yep,
Alaska who were
yep.
super dope. They were
Were they from
Christian.
Alaska?
Yeah, yeah,
I did
from
not know
Juneau,
that. Huh.
from Juneau. Oh, I know more about hip hop than probably anybody, right?
Man,
Like
because I
it's
did not
crazy.
know that. Honey Dips and Gotham, man. Ah, jeez. That was good stuff.
The remix to that was a fire beat. But
Yep,
yeah, I mean,
yep,
I grew up just like you. I was listening to, even like Tone Low, Public
yeah,
Enemy
yeah,
for
yeah,
sure, Ice Cube, Death Certificate, right? All that kind
yeah,
of late
yeah,
late '80s, early '90s. Um, but for me, I think what hip hop imparted in me was less of a rebellion and more of just a sense of belonging, even though
yeah,
I
yeah,
never
yeah,
really belonged in that community and I never tried too hard either. I was also a
yeah,
punk rock, right? I was the lead singer, lead guitarist in my punk band. And we would literally open up for hip hop artists. We'd be the only one. The crowd wouldn't even really be feeling us. But
yeah,
then we get them in our fanzine and stuff like that. But when you talk about rebellion in Christianity, it harkens to me the only time in the Bible that Jesus ever got mad. And that was in the temple, right? It was
mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
when they were talking about money in church.
yeah,
And I think my theology, my religiosity, my spirituality, right, all of that has probably impacted me equally to my lifelong love affair with hip hop.
huh, interesting,
Um,
yeah,
those transcend my love for technology, my love for startups, my love.
yeah,
I'm not a
yeah,
capitalist, but I love making money at this
sure,
point. Like
yeah.
when I look at my bank account and it's like a lot more than I thought it was, and
I think that
anyway,
makes us all feel good. Yeah,
my God, right? I did that.
yeah,
Right? So, but
yeah.
yeah, I don't know if I put the correlation specifically to hip hop, but hip hop's a big part of me.
Yeah, yeah. It's funny, man. Like, obviously we're both Chicagoans. We've come up at the same time. I'm almost certain we've run into each other in one of these little beady smoke shops or something, man, freestyling and all of that. I think there's something, we talked about a little bit before before we got started, how we have a similar sort of energy, a similar way of approaching the world that let me bring it back because that makes me wonder. You mentioned a few times this idea of doing things for love, um, doing things for love, doing things for the sake of it being the right thing. If you weren't taught that, if you didn't have the people around you, obviously you're talking about gangbangers and drug dealers and rappers and punk rockers. These are not the people that are typically saying stuff like, dude, you got to try to be the right kind of person, do things for the right reasons. Don't try to get for you, get for the group. How did you become connected with the world around you?
Hmm. So I really think it's people like Alan Watts, deep meditation. I've sat with plant medicine before with shamans, and I even hallucinogenics. I think a lot of that has really helped. I think also for me it was just being on the street, right? Even when I was homeless,
Hmm.
I would literally hustle all day long to make $10. I'd go buy two pizzas that were at the edge of the square, and I would bring it for every single person on that square that needed food.
Yeah.
Right, literally, I was facing a lot of time, a lot of backlash, a lot of things, but it never ever occurred to me to just do me.
Hmm.
Right, ever,
It's
and I
interesting.
think when I was in that situation, not that I care or not, although one of my favorite new hip hop artists these days, new hip hop artist, but is the baby, and he has a song called "Needed No Help" that I resonate with a lot because
Hmm.
I do look back on that. No one was there to help me. People weren't giving me spare change on the streets.
Sure.
People weren't coming to visit me when I got locked up for. I had a 5 year sentence in prison, back around that same time, late '90s and
Wow.
all
Okay.
that. Um, and but the just love that strangers showed me
Hmm.
Not physically, not physically, but just a smile from a stranger or from a guard, or I think my countenance, right? When I first got taken into custody, I was looking at a lot of time. The couple people, whether it was the counselor at that county jail, I think just kindness from strangers, and I think a lot of times that just manifests in a look or a countenance or a millisecond of just right to me. Anytime I can bring that type of empathy, certainly empowerment, possibly, but to anybody else that I encounter on this earth, to me it's just vibes,
Yeah.
right? It's like
Yeah.
it is a pay it forward, because I am a living testament to the fact that people can rebound, and
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
the come up can be worse than the setback every time. But it was because other people, whether or not it was just their intention, right,
Yeah.
of
Yeah.
me being okay, or their concern or their empathy, that was instilled in me. I mean, that's probably at this point encoded in my DNA,
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
my genome, right? So I think it really is just energetic ultimately.
Man, I find that to be so interesting, man. There's so much of what I do personally. There Somebody's playing house music. That is awesome. Uh, there's so much of what I do that I feel like is on such a similar vibe. Um, I feel this connection just with everybody. So obviously, uh, black male in America, there's a crap load of stuff, man, that I can just be pissed about and dislike other people for and point the finger and blame people for. And one of the things that I find is that there's um there's a beauty still in even the racist person. There's a beauty still in the incorrect person, and I feel like for me, I'm always trying to find that, because what I found is that when I was being, I'm out smoking weed and drinking and womanizing and fighting and doing all of this stuff that obviously isn't the best stuff, and there were people who saw beyond, the acts, and saw the human being in me. And to me, it is a pay it forward thing, because without those people, I feel very connected to the empathy and to the love and everything that people are showing me at that point. And so, yeah, I feel indebted. I feel so much like, yeah, I definitely got to get that back. And I find it to be such an interesting thing, man, that I remember you mentioned a couple of times people tried to rob you, like you were going to, try to help out or give somebody some money, and people tried to rob you or whatever. Like, for most of us, I think that turns us off. Like, people are like, I don't know if I'm going to give to a charity, because with charities, people aren't always getting the full amount of money. You were literally like having people try to rob you if you tried to help out, and you still decided to give to Troy. You know, I think those choices to go like left instead of right, or go right instead of left, are the things that really make us. So it's really interesting to hear how my own journey has been so much of that. And the part that I pull out is not growing up in the projects, not being poor, not having welfare, food stamps, or whatever. It's the beautiful pieces that people have shown me. So let me just ask you, when you, like, that's like it's like gas or fuel for your engine. What keeps you fueled up now with that? What keeps you going with that?
Oh, I don't know if this is the right or wrong answer, but and again, I'm not a huge capitalist, but I think at this point, money, right? I've been brought into deals based on who I am anymore, that have very quickly um, ma- manifested themselves as six figure. You know, like I used to work a year for that. You know
Yeah,
what I mean?
yeah,
I'm
yeah.
getting offered that with on the cool from a conversation or two these
Sure,
days.
sure.
And I do believe, I'll give all the money I can make away. I don't care. I don't ever need to
Yeah,
have a big amount of money in a bank. Have you heard of the concept of the circular economy?
yeah, yeah. The idea of just keep it going, keep it spreading.
Well, the way that I was had it explained to me was pretty remarkable. He
Okay.
said, Corey, if you give me $100 and I put it in my sock in my closet behind a fake wall, and I still have it in 5 years, it's worth $100.
Mm-hmm.
And I still have it in 10 years, it's worth $100. And in 12 years, when I really need it, I take it out and it's worth $100. Now, if you give me that $100 and I go spend that $100 and
Mm-hmm.
get something that I wanted from somebody that now has that $100, right? I got what I wanted.
Mm-hmm.
And they take that $100 and they put it in their sock drawer in their closet, it's worth $100. But if they spend it on something they wanted with someone that was selling something, now that person has $100. They said 1,000 people later, that $100 is worth $1,000,000.
Mm-hmm.
That one $100 bill is worth $1,000,000. $1,000,000 of value was
Sure.
created with that same piece of paper I could have put behind my and maybe in 15 years it was worth $105 if I'm
Mm-hmm.
lucky. Right? That concept really got me thinking. Right, I could have kept the money in my pocket, not given it to Troy, not gotten that extra $1,000, $3,500 tip, whatever it was, 4,500 with the extra. Um, but I think so many people are worried, and it gets back to this whole lack mentality, abundance
Yeah.
mentality. People that are trying to hoard, save for a rainy day, worry. They usually ultimately have something to worry for, and that they needed that rainy day fund for. Whereas people like me, not to say I don't have something in the sock anymore, because I can, right? But at the
Mm-hmm.
same
Mm-hmm.
time, people like me, I'd rather put it out and make the world a better place. And I feel as though, in this abundant world where there's an unlimited amount of money,
Sure.
there's
Yep.
so much money that money is made every day. What do I mean by made? It's literally created out of thin air,
Mm-hmm.
right? In more ways than one now that there's crypto and all
Yep.
these other
Yep.
things. So there's unlimited fiscal resources. And I find, sometimes the greedy people are the ones that do have a fair amount of it because they've been hoarding it.
Sure.
But then
Yeah.
they're the ones, their house gets hit by lightning, or their kid gets, diagnosed with something really bad. I don't want to put any bad vibes out there, but
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
like all of a sudden this person that has $500,000 in the bank has some shitty thing happens that costs $500,000.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, I had a health issue. I almost died at the beginning of COVID. I was given 6 months to a year to live. It was a liver
Wow.
disease, a very bad one. I had to really prioritize myself. I thought I was young and in good health. At the time, I didn't have health insurance. I had kind of some alternative stuff, but that wasn't going to take care of what I had going on with my liver. They told me 6 months to a year to live. They said I was going jaundice. My liver was shutting down. It was a
Oh,
real bad
wow.
disease.
Wow.
It had gone undetected for X amount of time. I said, you know what? Let me just give thanks for this. As a matter of fact, it took me for a day and a half. I don't want to lie to your audience. I was really, really, really. I thought I was going to die. I was going through all my ass, blah blah blah. But 2 days later, or the next, the day after the day I really melted down, I thought, you know what? No, that's not how this is going to go down. If God wants me, then I'm going to give thanks for that,
Yeah. Right.
right? Who am I to say if I'm supposed to be somewhere else? But said, other than that, this is not a death sentence, just because, and it was actually because my first company was trying to get key man insurance on me. So they sent someone to my house the day the pandemic hit to get a blood sample. And had I not been honest on that, they asked me with the blood sample, or the reason he came to get the blood sample. No. This is where the honesty comes in. I could have never ever found out that I had that, and I would have died 6 months to a year. But
Wow.
they asked me on an online form a bunch of questions, and one of them was, "Do you smoke marijuana?" Right. My CEO at the time that replaced me, but I was the chairman. He reported to me. We had to stand up every 3 times a week, and he would always start it by saying, "Good morning, sir." Right. Every single, and it was 3 times a week for however long. Good morning, sir. And he gave me the status updates and whatever they needed. There's one particular morning after they sent me the form for my Keyman insurance, and they came back and they said, uh, instead of saying good morning, sir, he said, "How fucking dumb are you?" I said, "Excuse me?" He said, "Cory, did you really put on the form that you smoke marijuana every day?" I said, "Well, yeah, they asked." He said, "You're supposed to lie." I said, "I don't lie." I said, "Plus, knowing me, something bad's going to happen. I'm going to go in there and they're going to do a blood test, and then it's going to nullify it all anyway." I said,
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't. I don't want to have to remember a lie and then tell this doctor this and that. No, I'm going to just tell the truth.
Yeah.
That was why they sent a doctor or whatever he was to my
Wow.
house for a blood test.
Wow.
And so that's how I found out. But so I put it to prayer and gratitude, and literally the next day I had a facility out of Florida contact me. They said we're going to get you healthy on us. The medicine should have been $150,000. They paid for it. I don't
Jeez.
know what they paid. They sent me black Ubers to take to the clinic downtown on Michigan Avenue at the beginning of COVID. I walked into a lobby with 50 people in it. I went to the front desk. I said, "My name's Cory Warfield." They said, "Right this way, Mr. Warfield." This clinic in Florida told me we will never charge you one penny. They're a Christian organization. They said we'll never charge you a penny. If anyone ever charges you one penny under our name, it's fraudulent. Don't
Yeah.
give them a penny. They said, there are often people that try to do. Just understand, you will never get a bill for anything. And they got me the
Wow.
medicine that I needed. I took it for however many months. I had to abstain from everything, eat vegan, and blah blah blah. I did that, and then I think it was 3 months later they gave me the blood test, and I was good.
Hmm.
And that was probably 2 years ago, right? I should have been dead a year ago.
Dude, how
And
many
again,
lives have you lived, man?
quite a
Jeez.
few, quite a few.
Like you were like a cat here. Like that is awesome, man. Okay, so uh, uh, yeah, we're about 9 minutes left. Let me ask you, you you you've come from such a far place to make it to where you are now. Where I mean, you said yourself, man, like in most measurements, you're going to be considered successful, right? But what what now? If you're this is the question I like to ask people. If you're at your funeral, right? You're an attendee. I don't know why you'd be attending your own funeral, but let's say you're there, someone who's known you your whole life. They're summing up your life in your eulogy, and you've lived the best life you can imagine, man. What do they say about your life? They're going to wrap this up in a sentence or two. What are they going to say about your life?
Well, the thing is, I have best friends. I've had the same best friend for 21 years. And it's funny, his name's Tom Sawyer, but he's Tom Sawyer the third. His dad, Tom Sawyer the junior, and my dad, Tom Sawyer, went to high school together at New Trier. But my
Wow.
dad's best friend at New Trier was Tom Sawyer, but there were two Tom Sawyers. My dad's best friend was the other one. My grandfather knew his grandfather, Tom Sawyer. So anyhow, I have a lot of people in my life that have known me most of my life.
Yeah.
And I have a feeling that any of them at my eulogy would probably say something along the lines of, they were happy to see me experience some ups in life since they've seen me experience some downs, but that I've always been the same Cory, and that I've always loved. I mean, the first time I heard Ziggy Marley's song "Love Is My is my religion," that song literally felt like I was home. I could have closed my eyes. I could have been anywhere in the universe when I heard that song.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, and I think it's just always been about love for me. Even back when I was in, elementary, junior high, high school, college, dropout. I think it's always been. I've always just loved people. So hopefully they would say that they are glad that they got to see me experience some big ups in life, since they probably knew of my big downs.
And downs.
And
Yeah.
other than that, just that love was, hopefully my religion, and hopefully my vibration. That's, this world always needs more love. And it's funny, I've done a number of episodes of my podcast, Cory Connects, but I've also been on, my last count was 180 podcasts. And if you Google my name,
Wow.
there's nothing but page after page after page of podcasts that I've been on. And most people ask me something along the lines of, if you could give your old self one bit of advice, or if you have one thing you could tell the world, or whatever. And it's always the same for me. It's always, and I'm looking at your sweatshirt right now, I lead with love. For me, my advice always is love more.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
who is that message for? It's for any and everybody, including me and you.
That's right.
Who is that applicable to? Absolutely everybody. I'll
Yeah.
tell the Pope, and I would tell Mother Teresa, if she was still
That's
here,
right.
to love more. I certainly
Yeah.
tell myself to love more, and I think Jesus tried to love more.
Yeah.
I don't think
Yeah.
I don't think trying to love more, putting more love into this world is ever anything but the right answer. So that's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
Man, that is beautiful, man. Thank you so much, my brother. I really applaud you, man. Uh we obviously talked about this a couple of weeks ago and got everything set up, and I was so impressed with just how you show up, and the way that you're showing up and sticking with, like, what I'm going to say is probably a little bit of a tough belief system to have, because uh love is a little bit out of fashion, you know, especially against things like capitalism and people being, individuals, and the polarized world we live in, man. It's like love feels like it is on the back burner for a lot of people. So I appreciate so much you setting the example that you are.
But I appreciate that, but I have good news for you, brother.
Yeah.
Love is here to stay,
Right.
and
Right.
love wins at the end of the day. I heard an amazing analogy one time, and this man said something that stuck with me. He said, "This is the power of love, right? God, whatever we want to call it." He said, "You
Yeah.
can walk into a large room full of darkness
Yeah.
and light a small flame, and that flame will begin to illuminate the entire room. It will grow and it will multiply and it will amplify and it will illuminate and it will elucidate and it will brighten and it will lighten. But there's no amount of darkness you can bring into a well lit room that will have any efficacy or effect over the amount of light in that room." In
Right.
other words, love wins,
Always right.
and
That is
God is love.
beautiful.
And that's according to every prophet, every
Right. Right.
messenger,
That's
every
right.
religious person that has ever uh, spoken the word of God.
Man, Corey, I want to thank you, man. This has been such a pleasure, man. Hang on. Oh, you know what? Before I go, I want to make sure, man. I don't know if you can see the comment section, but if you have anything that I want to make sure that people, everybody, just so you know, you can reach Corey through LinkedIn. You can reach Corey, I know, on Facebook also. This is broadcasting to Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube. I don't know if you have anything on your YouTubes, man, but definitely reach out to this man. You hear him, you listen to him. He is an amazing partner to be working with. Corey, can you tell us what else people should know, or how to contact you, or anything like that, if they want to work with you or hear from you?
Yeah, well, first of all, shout out Aya. I saw Aya out there.
That's
I was
right.
talking about plant medicine. That's my mama Aya as well, ayahuasca. So I see Aya here in the comments. That's good vibes. Um, but and yes, I do have a shaman from Peru. I'm praying for Peru right now. There's some bad stuff going there. I was
Okay.
in Cusco recently in Lima. I absolutely love Peru, so it does break my heart to see what's going on there. But listen, the main thing I'm doing these days, if anyone has a Web3 company that needs funding, needs scale, needs anything like that, you're welcome to apply for our launch pad. It's called Decarbon. Our only kind of mandate is that you're building sustainable green technology, and we help with all of that. But if people want to grow on LinkedIn watching this, I'm very, I'm almost proudly expensive for my one-on-one coaching. But I realize I don't want to help the rich get richer. I was looking at my clientele; they're all great people. I love them all. They're all rich when they came to me, and they're richer when they leave. That's not what I'm all about. So as of the beginning of this year, I changed my business model. People can still pay me $2,000 an hour for my time as a coach. However, I will not coach anyone that has not come through my ecosystem first. So I've opened up two tiers where people that cannot afford $2,000 an hour, which until fairly recently was me as well, right? So I'm preaching to my own choir and my own people at this point.
Mm-hmm.
I started two tiers below that are ways people can work with me. The first one is free, and it's powerful. It's intended to help everybody. It's not a sales pitch or a sales funnel. It's a free community on LinkedIn called Link Tips, LinkedIn Tips, LINKTIPS, LinkedIn Tips. Totally free. We share valuable content every day there that I teach my clients to pay me $2,000 an hour. That's my tier one. My tier two, anyone that's placing an investment in their growth, I have a $750 masterclass video. if anyone comes to me to buy the video and mentions this session with Kelly and this episode of the show, I'll throw in an extra video, a library of resources, and a one-on-one coaching session with me, totally included. So that's my mid-tier. So I've got my $0 tier, I've got my $750 tier, and then people that want me to coach them, I'm $8,000. It's a month program. I do only work with people that have already watched the masterclass, and I deduct the price of the masterclass from the coaching. So you don't need to pay me to be your friend. You don't need to pay me for help. I've got the free community. If I know that you're a friend of Kelly's, I'm going to take care of you with whatever I can do. But at the paid level, I have a $750 video, and I have my one-on-one coaching as well.
All right, and that is LinkedIn tips to get started, folks. Cory, that is our time, brother. I'm gonna play us out with my probably equally, maybe even more corny outro.
Yeah. Bring it on. Hey, should I freestyle to it?
Oh man. Oh, actually, oh man, I forgot about the freestyle. You know what? Because I gotta respect everyone's time, man. I say we do this again at some point. We should just do a video together, man. We should just get a beat and get it. All right, man. I'm gonna outro us, and you hang on with a second, Cory, and I'll talk to you backstage. See you all.
Thanks, guys.